I murdered my pet, you somehow jinxed your pet's death, there is a big difference between normal grief and OCD spirals. And knowing the difference can help you stop feeding the thoughts that are torturing you. Hello, and welcome to part 2 of this pet loss and OCD series. Last episode, we talked about why losing your pet hurts so much. Today, we're getting into the specifics about how OCD shows up after your pet loss. In this episode, we're going to talk about the guilt, the intrusive thoughts, and decisions around euthanasia. So here's the thing. There is a big difference between normal grief and OCD spirals. And knowing the difference can help you stop feeding the thoughts that are torturing you. So let me tell you about someone named Maria. For Maria, she had her dog, Luna, who had severely declining health conditions, and Maria went to 2 different vets to get multiple opinions to see if there was anything else she could do for Luna. And of course, ultimately, the decision led to euthanasia, and she had an in-home euthanasia, person come, which is incredible that they offer those services. It was like at first, Maria grieved normally, where she's like, I miss Luna. I'm not ready to get rid of her things. Then, after a couple days, she started Googling all of Luna's conditions. Like, what if it was something that was treatable? What if it wasn't what the vet said it was? And then she's thinking, what if I had stayed home more? What if I had paid attention to Luna more? What if I had, all of those what ifs? But ultimately, it is undermining her own self-confidence and self-trust and belief that she was a good dog mama. So she is replaying every interaction she had with Luna, with the vets, and then even thinking about if only I had researched other conditions or maybe took her to a specialist. And then the thoughts, they get louder, more frequent, more intense, and she's not going to work because now the thoughts are saying, you killed Luna, right? Like it's very intense. And this is why you can't feed into those urges to research or to get reassurance, because it just drives it further and further. And so obviously Maria was experiencing OCD among her grief because the OCD hijacked her grief experience. She loved Luna, and therefore OCD can be right around the corner. So normal grief, it can include some regret and what if thoughts, but it's very easy for someone who's in normal grief to feel that pain and then eventually come to some sort of terms within themselves of like, well, I did the best I could, or it was her time to go. She's in a better place now. Like different types of closure, type of peaceful conclusions. So let's break down some common OCD themes that show up after pet loss. First of all is the responsibility and guilt. That's theme number 1. Like normal grief is going to say, I wish I had more time with them. OCD is saying, I'm responsible for their death. I should have known. I should have done more. And it's all my fault. This is that hyper responsibility, which is the belief that you had more control over the situation and the outcome than you actually did. Then theme number 2 is, did I do something wrong? Type of obsessions. So normal grief is saying, I wonder if euthanasia was the right choice. Whereas OCD says, I murdered my pet. I need to know with 100% certainty that it was the right time. And then you are researching and saying to yourself, I need to research every possible alternative treatment that I might have missed. So it's like there's nothing you can do at this point, but the OCD is demanding that you do research. And OCD demands certainty about decisions where there can never be 100% certainty. Okay, then theme number 3, the intrusive images and thoughts, where normal grief says remembering your pet's final moments with sadness. Maybe you're even looking upon pictures. Things are pretty normal as far as reminiscing. But then OCD is where you experience intrusive, unwanted images of your pet suffering that play on repeat. And then you're experiencing thoughts of what if they were in more pain than I realized? And you can't stop analyzing it. And then I've also seen people who will create rituals around their pet loss, so they feel like they need to kiss their pet's picture multiple times before they leave the room or even leave the house. Another theme And obviously, everyone's experience is unique. This overall in general terms from what I've seen with OCD and pet loss. So, number 4 theme is the magical thinking and what if spirals. So, I just did a whole series on magical thinking, and this is where you are inferring things, essentially making assumptions in your mind. So, normal grief says, I miss them so much. OCD says, what if I had just done X differently? They'd still be alive. What if I caused this by not taking them to the vet enough? What if I had changed their diet? What if I had gotten them different medicine? So for the magical thinking and the OCD, it's kind of like that feeling that you somehow jinxed your pet's death, because magical thinking is all about not only assuming things can happen, but assuming that your thoughts have power on the universe. So the OCD thoughts could sound like, what if it were my negative thoughts, like that one time that I thought, oh, they'd be better off in another place. Because when pets are having a lot of medical issues, it's hard. You don't know what to do, but yet someone with OCD, they're going to feel guilty for even thinking that their pet will be better off in another place, like the afterlife type of thing. So overall, everybody, here's how to tell the difference between grief and OCD. Grief allows you to feel sad, remember your pet, and then you can gradually integrate back into life, still acknowledging your loss, but you're not held back. OCD demands that you solve the unsolvable, you confess the unforgivable, and you achieve certainty about the uncertain. See, it kind of puts you between a rock and a hard place. And also, grief can come in waves where it's intense sometimes, but then manageable other times. And even in my own grief experiences, it's like I just got to have a good cry and then go about the rest of my day. But with OCD, it is relentless, and it's where you experience the same thoughts on repeat, and it demands your attention constantly. So here's a practical tip if you are experiencing intrusive thoughts around pet loss. First of all, recognize that it's OCD, and typically you can tell if it's OCD because it's starting with that what if or maybe thought. It's also putting you in that place of trying to solve the unsolvable. You're feeling really uncomfortable with the uncertainty of things. So once you recognize these OCD thoughts, I'd like for you to say to yourself, that is an OCD story and that's not my truth. I can feel this feeling without needing to solve it. You don't have to argue with every thought. You don't have to prove it wrong, okay? You just have to acknowledge it's OCD, and you can start with delaying feeding it or decrease feeding it or skip it altogether. So if you're caught in these OCD spirals, it's probably looking like you're Googling obsessively, you're replaying decisions over and over. If you're seeking reassurance from vets, friends, family, if you're confessing that you did wrong, all of those are compulsions. And while you're trying to relieve the guilt that the OCD is creating, it's not serving you and it's making things worse. Because the hard truth is every time you give in to these compulsions, you're teaching your brain that the thoughts are dangerous and need to be solved. So the tip as far as having awareness and reframing that it's an OCD story is just a start. I encourage you to reach out at valuedriventherapy.com, book a consult with me, and I'm happy to help you through your pet loss OCD experience. So as best as you can, recognize the thought and practice saying to yourself, this is an OCD story and I don't have to listen to it. And try to move on as best as you can to something that you value and enjoy, and try to bring yourself into that moment. And you're not a bad person for having these thoughts. You're not a bad person for having to do responsible things in your pet's life. You are someone who's grieving and experiencing OCD while trying to make sense of everything in this season of loss. Your pet knew you loved them, and you don't need certainty to know that that's true. In the next episode, we're going to go deeper into coping with pet loss without feeding OCD. I'll see you next week. Stay blessed by the best.